All right, KP. Just before the break, you mentioned how cool it is that in esports and partly in AOE 4 as well, you can go from being a completely unknown player into becoming one of the elite players of the scene. And one of the players in this story that we're going to have here, it's exactly what happened to him. PuppyPaw, someone with little competitive esports experience back then, ended up playing the early tournaments of AOE 4, and now he's a household name in the competitive scene. He's facing off against probably the one of the most skilled non-full-time players of AOE 4 here. RecoN, of course, big household name as well. Um, it's always difficult to predict what RecoN is all about, partly because he's just very inconsistent when it comes to available playing time. But he's always a dangerous foe, and he's going to be a challenger here for PuppyPaw as we'll be heading into this next best of 5 and take a look at the Surfshark map draft.
Yeah, I think to the whole recon point, I think it's more than that. It's a tough issue when you're one of these players that's been out of the top runnings for a while, and obviously, if we're being totally real about A4's like ecosystem, money has been going down. You have to start assessing, okay, have I got the time to burn? Like, I'm not a content creator like a BC or a Dumu. I'm not getting extra income out of this. What do I do in my time? And I think tournaments like this actually are kind of rejuvenating because they give something fresh, right? They give something new to experiment with, and that also, I think, is a beautiful thing because it gives a soft reset. I hate this idea of like an elitist, like gatekeeping scene where it's like, could you imagine a dry Arabia only tournament? I'm sorry, I know we covet Dry Arabia as like the best competitive map ever, but at the same time, for the love of God, give me new source for people to learn new things in. And that is what we're going to get to see here later. Some good old Woodwall coming back. It's been a while. Gorge hasn't been picked that much actually in the open format. I think it's been the least picked of all the maps. Holy Island has by far been the most picked. Water Drake making an appearance. We actually had Cow, who created the map earlier, begging, pleading. I assume he slipped $5 to PuppyPaw or RecoN to draft that for him. And finally, we're going to be seeing some more moving out. I don't know about you, but I've especially been surprised by the amount of moving out picks, considering I expected more players to lean towards Socotra, considering that will be in the Red Bull Wallalore map pool.
I feel like it's an interesting debate. I expected some more Socotra as well. But at the same time, yes, it's going to be part of the Red Bull little map pool. But we're looking at Masters of Realms over here. The players are playing their most beloved maps because they want to maximize their chances of winning their share of the prize pool. Obviously, once Red Bull Wallow gets closer, they're going to start prepping and scrimming on that map. But for now, they're just trying to maximize their chances. And that's exactly what they're going to do, playing Moving Out here, which is going to be the first game that we're going to take a look at. And you highlighted this before, Jushi and Chinese being one of the more beloved civilizations when it comes to the map pools that we are looking at. And that's exactly the matchup that we're going to get over here. Chinese and its variant civilization Jushi will be facing off on Moving Out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well, actually, because usually on water hybrid maps beats the crap out of China, actually. We've been seeing on a few. Holy Island was really surprising. Archipelago most definitely is usually favored. I'm curious to see how moving out is going to play out. Like, there are some things that are very good for China here, right? And the most notable one to me is that you could theoretically just play on the starting island and be really greedy with Imperial Academy, right? Because you get a lot of taxation, you get additional taxmen, you generate a lot. That could even then lead into a very aggressive Barbican placement that could really deny a lot of the map. So I wouldn't be surprised if Recon strategy is to kind of be more centralized, whereas PuppyPaw should be that typical move out for the corner for a high value meditation garden drop.
Yeah, before we head into this set, though, let's take a quick look at the rest of the schedule for the day. We have one best of 5 just finished, and we're looking at the second one of the day. This is only the second series, though, as we'll be heading into Vortex versus Anatan and Wham versus Baltoon later on from Group C and D of the opening round of Masters of Realms.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch it already, guys, it was a 3-1 end score for Lucifron versus CSO in favor of Lucifron. Vortex versus Anatan is going to be an interesting one. I actually think that is the most viable matchup this day to go 5 games in total. I think Anatan actually might be even slightly favored there. And then finally, Wham versus Baltoon. I'm expecting a 4-game series. Wham's definitely still favored, but Baltoon has been leveling up. Dude, the rate of improvement out of Baltoon in the first half of 2024 has been dumbfounding. I did not expect this coming out of the lad. He definitely is a player with a lot of pedigree. A lot of people don't realize he actually comes from Age of Empires 1, where he was a top competitor, and he's starting to deliver here in AOE 4 as well.
Yeah, looking at PuppyPaw versus RecoN, though, these two have matched up against each other a handful of times back in the past. Most recently, they did play against each other in the Elite Classic 2. That time, PuppyPaw took out RecoN 2-0. And they've also faced off in the EGC finals at the end of last year as well. That was a 3-1 victory for RecoN. You have to go all the way back to about April last year, the group stage of Elite Classic 1, where RecoN was able to take out PuppyPaw 2-0.
Yeah, it's hard to say RecoN's favored in this one. I got a lot of love for my boy, but it's undeniable. PuppyPaw, we mentioned at the start, he really is the rag to riches story of AOE IV right now. Easily, most people's lists would have him, as I say, a top 3 player at this stage in AOE IV in 2024. So let's see if RecoN can give us a big upset. We open up this series of Master Realms. BO5 on moving out. Zhuji in the hands of PuppyPaw. RecoN with the OG Chinese.
And this is going to be an awkward matchup over here, KP, because the matchup that we've seen in the previous set, Order of the Dragon versus Jushi, it's a fundamentally different matchup in terms of playstyle, in terms of the units available on water even. Obviously, when it comes to the type of the unit, it's still the same, but it is a slightly different unit. The junks, galleys, war junks, whatsoever. But here, everything that you do for the early part of this game on water is going to be identical.
Yeah. Well, it has some slight deviations, right? Which is like, you know, sometimes we've seen that ignore the Imperial official and just go for an Imperial Academy quicker. Obviously, you can't do that on this map, so like it's definitely going to be locked in. But what I'm curious about is like whether we will see a transpo ship play. Could RecoN theoretically have a greedy build where he just chills at home, right, on the central island? Maybe you just try to like brute force your way in quicker. A Barbican drop could be sick in the mid game as well, so it could be that we just start Imperial Academy and delay the next. Then again, it could just be a move out. If it is a move out here, I gotta say, it's kind of unfortunate for PuppyPaw, or maybe it's a good thing that he didn't spawn on the west side, because double berries plus wood is incredibly juicy for the Juji. Other side of it, we have actually... Can we check that relic? Because that relic might be griefing PuppyPaw from the golden spawn on the right side. Ooh, can he squeeze that? I don't think so, right?
I think he's going to be able to.
I hope not, because that is outrageous. That's atrocious, right? Like, you get the 25 gold, 25 stone. You'll probably clip, what, I'd say about 24 food, and then you'll get probably about 30 wood. That's an insanely good meditation garden.
Well, I mean, this is a map that Meditation Garden is notoriously good on. And that's going to be obviously the landmark of choice over here for PuppyPaw. It's going to be interesting to see how RecoN is going to play this, though. You know, there is always a potential for some weird Barbican shenanigans, but you gotta believe it's gonna be the Imperial Academy.
Yeah, especially with spawns like this, right, where you could easily wrap around the north side. The only issue is there's always the south side of the wood that they can actually still gain on, so it doesn't outright stop them. In theory, you could Barbican drop the north side, Outpost drop the south side, and then garrison villages there, and that would hit everything, right, because Barbican has very good vision. But, you know, that's a long stretch of a play. I'm not expecting anything that cheesy per se, but you know, it's kind of interesting when I've watched this map. Even plays that kind of feel cheesy, or should be cheesy, should I say, don't feel cheesy. Not like when we used to watch Mountain Clearing, if you remember, where it's like, oh yeah, here comes the Barbican drop. Wow, such an innovative move. Haven't seen that before. It's something about the way this has been designed, or maybe it's just the way that players have evolved how they play the game, that even when you feel like you're getting rushed in a cheesy fashion, there seems to be a path out to keep the game interesting. Medigarden, did he go? Yep. Oh, he built it at home.
Oh my, okay.
What?
That's an interesting choice here. It's not going to be a very optimal Meditation Gardens, but it is going to be a very quick gauge up. He's committing 6 villagers to this, and this could be a big difference here, KP. I guess this could be a response to him facing Chinese, but in general, the idea is that by not moving out to the outside for your Meditation Gardens, you have less idle time on the villagers, and you're much quicker going into Feudal Age here. Yeah. That's exactly what he's going to have. RecoN is likely going to build his landmark back at home as well. But I
think he Barbicans now. Like, I think you legit Barbican the south side. Dude, there it is. This is sick. So you Barbican the south side, and then you send a fishing boat around, because the fishing boat will see everything, right? And then he has to go to the north side out of range of the TC.
That is such an awkward start. This is the map from the Chaos category, and that's exactly what we're getting, Chaos. This is a very underwhelming Meditation Garden, so PuppyPaw needs to now leverage this quick uptime to Feudal Age, and RecoN knows that
Oh
his
my
opponent was up
God.
very quickly. He's committing 16 villagers to building that landmark.
Because he's building on the edge, right? And the scout sees this. The problem is the archer ship isn't going to be quick enough, and PuppyPaw knows it. The good news is the scout did at least look, so he can now pull away his villagers. Because soon we should have, what, a fishing boat, I'd imagine? Or maybe just the scout walks around here to start sniping.
16 villagers committed to that landmark is very much of an idle time here. That is a crazy amount of idle time, KP.
Can we just emphasize the fact that neither player has made a transport ship play off the central island yet, and they're both Feudal Age? Like, nothing. No, I thought this Juji player would go for it, right? Because like it makes more sense to them than like the Chinese, because Chinese can like tax 8 their way up, and the Meditation Garden just feels terrible here.
And now it gets awkward because you don't have any mineable gold on this island, so all the gold income you're getting, it's from tax. And at the same time, now that if you want to make a transport ship, it's going to essentially stall out your production of combat ships on the dock. So it's going to be interesting to see who pulls the trigger first. But it looks like PuppyPaw was able to squeeze out the war junk, which is not the case for RecoN. And this could be scary for RecoN. He already has his fishing boats being harassed by a junk, but it's the war junk that gets things to be a lot worse for RecoN.
That's kind of a cool thing about cost efficiency here, right? Because remember, Tang Dynasty gives you a 15% discount on your age-up cost, so you had a little bit more gold to work with than RecoN at the same stage of the game. But yeah, interesting that RecoN went to double archer ship. He can at least dodge out the Springwood as a result of that. What I'm intrigued by is, like, do we ever leave the central island here? I think we're getting our answer. Finally, PuppyPaw makes a transport ship. For a second, I thought they were going to just drop marketplaces and start flooding the market with wood.
That would have been hilarious. But yeah, one thing that RecoN has for him is a dock all the way out here, but you see he's not able to produce any combat ships on this. PuppyPaw is going to start taking it out. He's also building his own dock right next to it. The very southern part is actually locked down with the Barbican, which makes this a very interesting setup. We've seen this in the previous series. Players looking to take the northern and southern positions with their docks, and that Barbican guarantees that southern position to be safe for RecoN. He's not going to be able to hold on to the northern position, though.
So we have finally got the villagers on the mainlands. It only took 7 minutes, which is unusually long for a game on moving out. PuppyPaw, I'm impressed, though. The fact that he didn't move out for gold this long and has free Springwood ships, like, something feels wrong about what happened here to RecoN. I don't know, man. I don't think Barbican is the way. I think Imperial Academy is just too good.
I wonder if he's got any uncollected tax, but this is a beautiful raid by RecoN. He sent in 2 junks, and that's a lot more firepower. It makes it a lot less likely for these fishing boats to escape. Oh, nice little dodges until the very end. PuppyPaw does lose 2 fishing boats to this raid.
I think the other big problem is RecoN built one of his docks up far north, right? And if you think about it, what did PuppyPaw do? He kept his docks condensed so he could tax them as well. Like, I think that cost him the advantage here.
Nice little defensive tower. Is that that's a transport ship?
Yeah,
PuppyPaw is sending in a transport ship to soak up some of the damage, but in the end he's going to just bail out on this. He's actually going to lose the transport, which is a little careless. That could have been useful later on. And it's a barracks opening.
Yeah,
he's expecting RecoN to move out, but RecoN isn't moving out.
Well, yeah, because any sane player would move out for gold right now, but like, RecoN is literally just like, all I need to do is not lose a single Springwood ship, and I'm fine.
That is such a hilarious game. Because just think about the mind games here, KP. PuppyPaw is like, dude, he must have moved out already. There's no way he's still on the central island. And RecoN is like, I'm fine over here. And funnily enough, when you look at the war junk counts, it's dead even.
Yeah, but my worry is when it starts getting into demos, right? Like, that's a very big risk now for RecoN, because there's no way, without Imperial Academy flooding taxmen, can he afford to play a demo war.
I love the towers, though. The Barbican to the south and the tower to the north, it gives him a lot of safety, and you see how he's playing this. He's playing very defensive on the water, and he's trying to raid. I think at this point he knows that his opponent is out on the outside, and finally he moves out. He does so with 16 villagers.
Good God. Please, just go stone. I think this is a stone play. Like, you just do arrow slits, right? Okay,
oh, no, it's wood.
Wait, what?
it's wood.
So he's now worried that he's going to get hand cannon slitted on the tree line. Yeah, and he should be. Look, there's already an outpost up on the north side, so he has made the right call. Unfortunately, like, this now makes your pick completely terrible, right? Like, what was even the point in picking China if you couldn't win the gunning?
He's on stone now. He should also tower the middle, by the way. The Barbican itself locks down a lot of resources. I love the walls, by the way. He's expecting some counterattacks. And, well, let's talk about PuppyPaw, though, because he made a barracks, but he didn't make a single unit. Just
No.
adding to this chaotic element of the game.
I think he got baited into a little bit complacency, right? Like his scout actually moved into scout at all. He has now queued up Palace Guard. Remember, this is something Juji can do. This might be the one time where Feudal Age Palace Guard actually looks good in pro play.
Yeah, that scout is coming in clutch. He finally saw this, and there's going to be a second barracks as well. It's a big investment, though, and if RecoN was off in time, that investment might not pay off. Aeroslits are coming in. It's going to be on that tower to the north. Finally, PuppyPaw is committing. Ship counts are kind of neck and neck, though, and he's also fortifying that tower. I don't see any towers in the middle from RecoN, though, to harass the lumberjacks of PuppyPaw.
No, they should be coming up soon. Like, you've still got a scout, but it's not the central island, right? It's the only problem is getting around there, but there is going to be a cut through very soon. And he should know.
And if he towered this, that would be crazy.
Whoops.
Oh, the sheep! Oh, the sheep got cut off!
I mean, I don't think they matter that much, but it is adorable. Like, Papa, why have you abandoned us? I'm sorry, sons. Purple's your new father. Yeah, please, build that outpost and shoot them. That's what I need right now.
Oh, my lord. I mean, this is the map from the Chaos category, but let's be honest, none of us expected a game this chaotic.
I mean, I did. I've seen a few scrim games on this map. It is always a mess, and I freaking love it. Dude, I don't want orderly. Like I said, I'm border dry. Like, if they said this tournament, nah, no Dry Arabia, I'm like, yes! Like, don't get, I got a lot of respect for Dry Arabia, but we have it every single tournament. Do you know how refreshing it is to see things like moving out? God bless.
IO almost getting picked over there.
Yeah, but sadly, like, these are Imperial, and not in that form, they're Imperial galley ships, as in Stormtrooper types. They don't really know how to hit anything. They fire good warning shots. I don't know. If there's one type of ship that sometimes makes me wonder if we should have had like the AOE II, like not AOE II, like the ranged on land format of AOE IV, it's this ship right here. This thing always misses litter. Whenever I want to hit something, it misses.
Now this is big. These junks can actually prevent the repairs to the very north of that wall, and Palace Guards are there to torch it down. One thing PuppyPaw wasn't expecting, there was a couple of ships being back at home here. He tried to raid, wasn't able to. In fact, RecoN relocated all of his fishing boats to the south.
Yeah, so he seceded more territory to allow his opponent to break through the walls, is basically the quick way of summarizing that. Like, it's actually really grim for RecoN right now. He's essentially surrendering 3/4 of the fishing. If you think about it, like, PuppyPaw is utilizing 2 chunks. RecoN's only fully utilizing 1 because of that pressure on the west side. And hello!
Towers are coming up on both sides.
It's tower defense time!
Now, the towers can only shoot enemy units if they see them, so line of sight is going to be critical over there.
Dude, do you ever open up some Age of Empires 4? You're like, I really want to play some Bloons today. Like Bloons TD5. Let's get Bloons TD8. I don't know how many real ones exist. This is the new one. So this is just going to turn into an outpost rush on both sides. The difference, though, is...
This is complete madness, KP. Raids to the south. PuppyPaw built a second town center while we were talking about this. RecoN is piling up resources for Castle Age. And at the same time, we have all this chaos in the middle with the towers. Again, you need line of sight on the enemy villagers, though, so that the towers can shoot them.
Yeah, but it's even more wild than that. Like, before that TC came up, RecoN had an advantage in Stone Gathering, so he could win the tower defense game. PuppyPaw with the second TC can just dedicate everything to stone. Like, he actually can win this now.
Yeah, he's getting siege engineering as well.
Yeah, I think this is RecoN dead now. I think we're about to see a Trash Panda in the trash.
Oh my lord, this is gonna be an Imperial Palace, though. He's
RecoN,
gonna palace the middle so he gets the line of sight for the towers.
Surely you go clock tower here. Yeah, dude, it's a nest of bees. Like, you ever gonna give up the opportunity to throw a nest of bees at this? Nah, can't happen.
I was a believer, KP. I was a believer in this.
You were the deceiver in this one. No, I need those nest of bees. They're just too good here. I think, actually, like, you're even seeing a reaction now. PuppyPaw on the flanks going to the Rams. So he's trying to deny the mainland resources, but he's going to have to concede the entire island. But I think this is where you just build transpose and pull everyone from the homeland.
You probably do, yes. Now RecoN is able to make his own Palace Guards as well on the outside. He will need that because his walls are being bashed down. He built a second layer. And PuppyPaw pulled back for a second.
Dude, this is fantastic. Yeah, so we've got a little bit idle time as he hasn't actually realized he's already got transport ship waiting there. Distracted by the fight underneath the Barbican. Not a great place to take a fight. PuppyPaw is just flooding Palace Guard though. He's up to 16 and climbing. He's still trying to break that west side.
There's a second layer.
Wait, no, hear me out. Like, RecoN, he could have stonewalled this.
Yeah,
Like
well, now that he's in Castle Age, he can stonewall this, yeah.
But he's not. I guess he's just going to leave through the north. This game is getting weird, man. I love it.
Yeah,
Screwed
he's
in
fleeing
place.
to the north.
Okay,
He's
so
just gonna be like, I'm out of here.
But like, interesting thing is he just went Screwed in placements, and I remember someone done the numbers on this, and it actually works out that the DPS of Screwed in placements is barely better than hand cannon slits, but costs substantially more. So like, kind of intriguing that he chose Springles there.
Imagine PuppyPaw's face when he breaks through those walls, only to find no villagers out there.
There's like a false rage just being called. Like, yup, this is where Pablo Escobar. Oh wait, Pablo ain't here. Nah, they're gathering their goodies further up north. Keep moving.
Oh, he left the sheep in there. It's not like anyone cares, but
A successful drug bust. We found the white stuff.
those sheep belong to PuppyPaw, so he's just giving them back. He's sinking his
Meanwhile,
fleet though,
cleanup.
KP.
Yeah, and that's surprising. Like, PuppyPaw, you'd think he'd have the lead here, but forced away again. Actually feels like he's just losing to an amassment here. RecoN just so efficient in the trades due to that Barbican.
Yeah, I wonder about the text from RecoN, from the Castle Age from the dock, because that's where it gets interesting. He had Castle Age, and that unlocks a bunch of valuable technologies for your combat ships.
So, like, maybe, yeah, Sprint Cruise would be big here. He's got 10 of them, right? So I think you prioritize that over the hammocks. At that point, you can just bully the entire map. Like, also remember, like, TCs aren't threatening to boats unless you fully garrison them, and that would involve having villagers on your starting island.
That's actually hilarious. And the Rams, they're unprotected here. They went
Wait.
forward. No Palace Guards to protect them. PuppyPaw is going
Leave.
to lose this. I feel like RecoN is gaining a lot of momentum.
He is. This is insane. Like, you have 27 Palace Guard, and you have to run away in this situation because of 5 Lancers. Because you're not Castle Age Palace Guard. You're baby Palace Guard.
He's going to get to Castle Age very soon, but he might need to take this fight before that. At the same time, we have traps coming in from RecoN, and let's not forget, a lot of your landmarks are here on this island. Now,
All of them
you do
are there
have,
on that island.
yeah, but your Castle Age landmark will be on the outside, so landmark
I
win
hope
is
so.
not going to be a thing for RecoN.
Yeah, and then here it comes. It's going to be Shaolin Monastery. The funny thing is RecoN already started going for relics, so he might even beat him in that category as well.
True to its name, now it's truly moving out for PuppyPaw. He actually leaves his central island while he still can, by the way, because at this point, he's going to lose access to the water in like a minute or two.
Yeah, like this is always the tough thing, I think, for like Juji is, you know, compared to China, your landmark choices in Age 3 feel sucky, right? It's not that they're bad, it's just like on this type of map, either having Clocktown SB straight away, or just having that vision to snipe over the tree line.
What are those
beats
walls?
both.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what are those walls?
Hello, I just want to, I'm just looking for an honest day's work, gathering the hey, leave some for me. I mean, I don't know, I guess this is how, like, you don't, I mean, you just, usually you're bending down, you're gathering your arms. I guess that's how you just don't skip leg day. It's working hard, though.
That's the safest wall in the universe. There's a bush incorporated in the wall. Now,
Which
PuppyPaw was
by
up
the
to Castle
way-
Age, but he's rushing the Jiangnan Tower as well, so additional
Yeah.
landmarks are coming up.
Well, he needs
And he
farm
still has his
transitions,
fleet,
right?
by the way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised
RecoN
by
didn't
that.
commit.
And the problem is, like, if RecoN can actually break this TC, he can actually just siege it down with SWBs and GG, right? In the meantime, though, we have got a Lancer Flood coming in. And Spearman count is getting high, so PuppyPaw should be able to hold once it reaches his walls. He's now up to 2 TCs on that right-hand corner.
Yeah, he kind of needs it because he's going to eventually lose out on the water. I think if you asked PuppyPaw right now, he would probably say he's surprised that he hasn't lost water yet. Now, one thing that he could lose out on is all those villages and houses, so he needs to be careful about his population. At the same time, it looks like now we have an assault coming in from PuppyPaw to the north. He's up to 22 spears and 22 palace guards.
Wow.
And those stone walls will be a little too late.
Yeah, but there's a big problem on the south side of it, right? Like, it's a wood wall. And there's 10 Lancers here. You didn't really leave many Spearmen to deal with this.
That's true. Veterancy is coming in for those spears, though, and you can still produce those villagers very, very quickly.
I think if you're RecoN, though, you posture your fleet because then these Spearmen can't defend, right? Like, I think this is a bit of a mistake by RecoN. he should be bringing the boats over, because if you burn the palisade near the edge, then your boats can protect you.
It's all chaos,
no.
KP.
Yeah,
it is all chaos,
there's no
but
stone wall.
PuppyPaw is at 200 population, by the way. RecoN is at 160 as well. I feel like RecoN's momentum may have shrunk quite a bit. He was a little indecisive on water. He didn't commit. And he's bumping into walls where, on the other side, PuppyPaw is breaking through them.
It's crazy as well, right? Like, RecoN is clearly superior on the water. I think he just got paranoid about demo ships popping out from the docks initially when he pushed in. But, like, this is the thing. He's doing it now, but it does feel a bit too late. Like, look at what happened at the wall on the south side. He got pushed back. If he'd been there in unison, he would have flooded in and found everything, right? Like, PuppyPaw has 100 eco, and I think about 60 of it is in that right side corner.
Yeah, let's not forget, we're talking about China and its variant civilization, the Jushi. So, in the long run, you're going to have access to the Baoshuan. So, having all this water control would be very valuable when it comes to taking out these shoreline buildings.
Why do I feel like this is just going to turn into RecoN sitting on the central island and PuppyPaw on the outskirts?
Oh, those Lancers are getting butchered, KP.
Oh, man. I mean, he's so focused on this fight on the water.
Yeah.
In fact, that's not even working out for him. He ends up losing a few springles on the front side. More demos coming out. RecoN, he's full egg-click brain right now.
Oh my, that is just disastrous for RecoN. Destroyed value is still in his favor, actually, but he lost a lot of the Lancers. He took a I guess a disadvantageous or suboptimal naval engagement as well, and now he's got nowhere to go. PuppyPaw left the central island and said, okay, I'm going to just rebuild my base elsewhere. But at the same time now, RecoN is forced away from this outside area. In fact, I think his eco to the south is being raided now.
All right, hear me out. No one expects the transport ship rams. You just Normandy this up, right? You just send in 32 rams to delete the landmarks before you sacred site caps.
You're saying that, but it's not that crazy, actually. If it's not for the rams, just sending the Lancer to the transport ship.
All right, hear me out. I can go one crazier for you. You take the Palace Guard and you put them in the ram, and then you put the ram in the transport ship. Efficiency, my friend.
I think there is a simpler solution that RecoN could do, and it's actually more classic. Now that he has taken out essentially the entire base of PuppyPaw in the middle, he can start adding Springolds. Springolds are monstrous when it comes to sniping ships, and it's not like PuppyPaw can go elsewhere. I think if he starts adding Springolds and starts shooting at those ships, PuppyPaw is going to be in a tough position.
I think the problem here is, like, he suspects a farm transition, right? Like, you'd expect it when you see Jiangnan like that in the corner, and I think we've already got that coming in the north side. So it's like, even if you take out the fishing now, your opponent... Oh, sorry, not yet. We should be getting it soon, though, is my point. Like, PuppyPaw could quite easily transition when you consider about the amount of space he's got on the outskirts of the map.
I'm not worried about the farms here for RecoN. I feel like he just needs to defeat this fleet, and a handful of Springolds would help so much with that.
Instead, he's just going mass Palace Guard. From behind as well. Flash coming in, the fleets. I think Trebuchet's even trying to join in on the party. PuppyPaw definitely outnumbered here, needs to consider a backup. In fact, a lot of his fire is accidentally going into the fishing boats there, so will be pushed back, but I don't think it's anything decisive here. Like, PuppyPaw is prepping a new raid for demos. In the meantime, a breakthrough on the wood walls. He has at least got Palace Guard here to defend, but folks, this is wave number one. We've got a second wave coming from the south side. This is about to turn into a sandwich, and PuppyPaw is perfectly laying the trap.
Yeah, this is the problem here for RecoN. Even if he wins the water, now the fights are taking place elsewhere. His own base is being destroyed on the outside. His access to resources is being denied. His food econ is non-existent at this point. He is going to take out the fleet here from PuppyPaw, but he needs to find some more value for these ships at this point. Oh my gosh, what? Nest of bees just annihilating half of the army here from PuppyPaw. You can see that at the bottom left corner.
Yeah, but second wave from the south side. So he's having to turn around now. RecoN is having to hold off on both sides. It looks like he might be able to just do that while also winning on water. Dock's starting to fall. Demo ship is going to at least be able to creep in for a nice wall up there in return. But RecoN,
some beautiful
what an insane
demos.
hold.
That is some monstrous demos out there. RecoN distracted with all these fights happening, and PuppyPaw, with a much smaller fleet, he's still holding on to the water thanks to those demo ships. But look at the land-based army. It's gone for PuppyPaw. Population is evening out now.
And also, like, the C situation, right? Like, yeah, PuppyPaw, he does little David versus Goliath, but turns out actually what happens in that situation is that Goliath falls on top of David and crushes him, right? Because you lost your fleet as well. Now the problem is that RecoN can afford to reboom Palace Guard at a pacing that you should struggle with.
Exactly. And again, once the entire water is under the control of RecoN, things will get a lot dicier because suddenly you will see those ships starting to target land-based units, land-based structures. And it looks like we're going to have a bunch of Nest of Bees coming in here from PuppyPaw. Fishing Eco for Puppy is going to be gone as well. A reliable companion for a long time. Now it's gone. I actually wonder how many funds he has to back this up with.
None. He's now doing it.
And it's going to be on the shoreline. Like, that's Bauschon range easy.
You're thinking very far ahead. I think even in the short term, like, archer ships might be able to reach some of that. Actually, no, think about it this way. Springle Cruise, right? Like, Springles actually have insane range at this stage once you get Castle Age tech. So he might just be able to camp a few there. It might actually force PuppyPaw to build additional defenses to try and hold that area.
Yeah, now, the big thing here is that once you have the water, it also unlocks the opportunity to play with transports. So even if PuppyPaw was his base, transports allow RecoN to get in there, and it's worrisome for PuppyPaw. His population is just dropping way too quickly. His army count is just nowhere near where it used to be.
Yeah, remember when he was at 200 constantly? Now he's below RecoN. It's getting out of control at this stage. I can't believe he's actually turning this around. But, you know, that fight on land, I think this is a deceptive thing. It looked like PuppyPaw was winning because of water, but the more critical one was happening on land. Like, that gave the edge over, and it all came down to one Nest of Bees. And what impressed me so much about that fight from RecoN is the fact that in these choke points, he was assaulted from both angles simultaneously. He still held on, he still kept the villagers alive, and he still came out with more military units.
You know, Springles are setting up here for PuppyPaw, and that's something that we've discussed briefly before. Springles are really good when it comes to sniping ships from a distance. They do outrange them, and they do a lot of bonus damage, so it allows you to pick off some of these ships, but at the same time, PuppyPaw is trying to get back on the water, trying to get this dog back up. But here comes the landing, the one that we've talked about.
There's a keep here, though, right? I think he set up a keep in this area. So
but it's only villagers!
Oh, no,
it's only villagers!
Yeah, but it's only an outpost. So RecoN, is he just going to outpost rush here? He must.
He doesn't have the stone for a keep. Oh my lord.
But like PuppyPaw didn't keep drop here either, which surprises me considering he set up his farms in this area. And
oh my lord.
My god.
That is great value for RecoN. It's dropping 2 towers, and he forces all of the food eco of his opponent to flee. At the same time, nice flooding here by PuppyPaw. That's the last group of units he still has on the field. Stone was just a little too late here, but he has 16 Palace Guards to face off against 20. And now you have ranges here as well that could just start adding crossbows. Let's keep at least holding off the Palace Guards on the north.
Chinese Normandy looks real different from the European one, right? Like, we just send bodies up the beach to try and get it done. China's more efficient. They're like, why are we, like, massacring ourselves? Just build a bunch of outposts and, speaking of massacres, Nest of Bees finally in location. But, I mean, what does it really count for now, right? Like, RecoN has shifted the script the entire opposite side of the map. I don't, like, if we have to watch these Nest of Bees walk over there, someone's going to have to stick this on 8 times.
Oh my lord. 9 Nest of Bees per PuppyPaw, though. He doesn't have food eco, so he can't make Palace Guards. He just has these Nest of Bees rolling through the map now.
Wait, so we have a bio build versus a mech build is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. Funnily enough, RecoN doesn't really have the tools to deal with those Nest of Bees right now. Now, let's not forget, PuppyPaw already lost half of his landmarks, and I feel like RecoN is slowly marching towards those remaining landmarks. But at the same time, RecoN also lost a lot of ground here on the outside thanks to those Nest of Bees. Yeah.
Yeah. And so RecoN, with all this food, does he just tech up? Because, like, it's very difficult now when you're outnumbered like this. He's even trying to evacuate the mainland now.
I would love to see him tech up. I think Bauschon here would be a game changer for him. And he's got a lot of food income, but he doesn't have gold income, by the way. This was the large gold vein he was taking. And look at the north. That has been castled by PuppyPaw. One thing that PuppyPaw did really well was cut his opponent off from gold.
It's not just that, right? Remember, he never built Imperial Academy, so he hasn't had that extra taxation just escalating elsewhere. He hasn't got the extra taxmen freely. Like, it's
He's
pretty ugly.
Dynasty.
Wait, really? We're doing this. We're actually...
This is full tank.
Okay, hear me out, RecoN. Select your buildings and delete them. I lose my mind how often I watch players not do this in their own infrastructure. Like, he could have actually kept all his Palace Guard alive and killed all the Nest of Bees if he just deletes 2 structures.
Population is looking grim for RecoN now, though. He is dropping very rapidly, and look at PuppyPaw. He's back to 170. It's a full mech build, as you kind of highlighted, full Springles Nest of Bees, but RecoN has nowhere to go. There's a Treb taking out the keep that's meant to protect the gold mine. Villagers were pulled for this. Just chaos all over.
No, let's not actually validate that Trebuchet's efforts. He was taking out a wooden wall. He wasn't doing anything useful.
Okay. Oh my.
Oh,
This is crazy. And at the end of the day, I think what matters the most is that RecoN doesn't have that safe gold income, and he's been harassed by PuppyPaw the whole game on the outside, and he can never finish these walls to protect his villagers, I feel.
Like, RecoN at this stage, I think he's trying to get Imperial Age.
Yep.
And the logic isn't, it's not even the Battle Shrines we're talking about, it's Shudder Triggers. Like, that's the only way you can now beat Siege. But if you tech up, think about what happens. PuppyPaw gets back on those farms, he techs up. And
Yes.
at that stage, he already has the Siege advantage, right? Like, you're playing from behind that situation. I'm struggling to see how this now comes together for RecoN.
Yeah. At the same time, PuppyPaw is actually looking to get back on the waters. He dropped 2 docks to the south. He sent in some demos to try and take out the fishing boats. He's cleaning everything up on the north. And when the dust settles, when you look at this outside rim of the map, we're looking at like a 70% map control for PuppyPaw.
All right, I've come to a conclusion. Chinese Normandy is definitely not more efficient than European Normandy. I mean, it's just going to be wave after wave of Palace Guard now. Like, RecoN, we thought he was saving for a tech up. He's gone to double digits on the Palace Guard again, just to try and stake a claim. But this is coming at a high price, right? Like, you know, behind this, we should be... Is that Sprinkle Cruise now coming in, I think? So PuppyPaw definitely trying to park himself properly on water once more.
I wonder how many farms RecoN has. Because at this point, the best play would be to start making farms in the middle, because that's the safest place for him on the map.
Yeah, RecoN, this is your zone. Stay here. Ain't no one telling a trash panda what he can be in life. No, you're an island dweller, buddy, right? Like, I've met him in person. He's definitely an island dweller, Lidicore. When we were in Germany, we saw this fancy food. He's like, can I just have fish and chips? Most British island dweller I've ever met. So he's trying to come on the mainlands, but it's going to be a struggle. That army is crawling in fast.
Yeah, army numbers are better for him now, but it's a grim situation when you look at the population. PuppyPaw does have enough stone for a keep drop as well. And once again, RecoN is trying to wall this, but he's going to be just a little too late again. And, well, at least he's dropping the Imperial Academy, so he's going to reach Song Dynasty.
Woohoo! Gonna need that goal back on the homeland. That's the Beast. Massacre coming in. He needs to jump on him straight away. Stagger formation, and that is why we should not walk beyond choke points.
Very nice jump on those Nest of Bees, though.
What? I cannot believe he just walked into the open like that.
And now the Springolds are rolling forward with no escort. You can pull the villagers to take out the Springolds.
I mean,
My
this
gosh,
is absurd.
this game is not over yet.
No, just as soon as you think he's done, he's got nothing left. RecoN pulls one more punch out, but PuppyPaw now trying to hail onto the sun. Temple the Sun on the way. Imp about to trigger for him. This is where the game should get dicey, because if he is able to sneak back onto some water, which is starting to happen,
Yes.
we could just see Palace Guard that are superior with better moves.
Exactly. I feel like Bombards will be on the way. RecoN is not far away from Imperial, especially if he balances his eco, but you can definitely see the effects of him being down by 50 eco and also non-stop being harassed.
How does RecoN do this now? I mean...
Well, it needs to start with a lot of walls, I feel, because he needs his eco intact. And I would, now that he's Song Dynasty, at least he can mass-produce villagers a little better. He needs to get some farms in the middle, because his food eco is abysmal. And the middle is the part of the map where you can't rate his farming eco. This is some nice finds, though. Remember, Puppy's still taking Hunt. He was taking the board like a couple of minutes ago. So he might be still very reliant on these finite resources when it comes to food eco. Yeah, he barely has any farms going.
And this is kind of sick, right? Because you've got enough Palace Guard, you just run past the keep now. Okay, or not. Like, you could realistically just dive deeper, though. I think there is now a Stonewall coming up from PuppyPaw in reaction to that, so actually a good timing. We wouldn't have got it up otherwise. But yeah, Bombards are starting to breach Southside, and the elite upgrade should be on the way soon. Looks like instead, PuppyPaw, he has to turn it into an ego chow. It's not enough to just win on land, go sacred sites, do it the standard way. No. He's trying to send a message here. The Bao Chads are out.
And the only place in that central island where RecoN shouldn't be building farms is at the very edge, and that's exactly now happening.
Oh no!
I feel like this game is now out of control for RecoN. He has so little gold to work with. That large gold vein, that's his lifeline to the south, that's almost depleted, and he doesn't have a safe access to it. Now the Baoshuans are coming in, water is swinging in the favor of PuppyPaw, and the RecoN's population is just declining way too quickly.
For 34 minutes, RecoN has played this like a true Brit. Every time we lost on the mainland, we retreated to our island safely. Turns out someone else had a bigger fleet at this point in the game. This has to be the end. PuppyPaw is just going to rotate around. That's going to cut off all the food, and you're now in a game where, funnily enough, RecoN has built so many walls, there's not really anywhere he can actually build a farm up.
Yeah, I think one of the big differences between these two players were how they could section the map off. PuppyPaw was able to secure most of this outside area, and that is what has been haunting RecoN for most of this game. He never had that safety on the outside that PuppyPaw enjoyed.
Yeah, instead he was always up against the ropes in that regard. Like, you know, it's kind of crazy to think, right? When RecoN hit that castle age, if he just pushed his advantage in the first 2 minutes, we could have seen a very quick GG out of PuppyPaw. Instead, PuppyPaw sneaks it, snakes it, shows you that it's not just about that central island, right? When you get this late game, you need to be locking in that goal for the late. And that's exactly what he's done here. Stonewall's now going up just to restrict the map further. And at this stage, once RecoN's pinned in that corner, there's nowhere to run and hide.
And ironically, RecoN was at a 2 out of 5 landmark victory for quite some time, taking out the initial landmarks on the opposing side. But now PuppyPaw is the one who could straight up just snipe the landmarks. RecoN is up to Imperial, but let's not forget, his starting landmarks are on this island, on the shoreline. He's about to start losing them. And if PuppyPaw wants to just quickly finish this game and not give any chance for RecoN to come back, just sniping the landmarks is the way to go.
PuppyPaw moving back onto the mainland with some Palace Guard. It's interesting, actually, because if he kept moving south there instead of prioritizing the landmarks, he could have denied all the docks first and guaranteed there's no fleet to contest him. Instead, it looks like RecoN is going to get a handful of Baoshuans out. In the meantime, though, his handful of Palace Guard needs some reinforcements.
Yeah, these are Imperial Age Palace Guards, though, on PuppyPaw's side. For RecoN, at least, he's got the Great Wall Gatehouse, and once again, he's going to retreat, but at this point, he's running out of places to go.
Yeah, he's running out of gold fast. The other bigger issue with that, right? Everything he wants to do, like, you're seeing a Baoshuan fleet assembled here by RecoN, but, like, this is a one-off Avengers assemble, right? There isn't going to be sequel after sequel like we get in our real world. Once that fleet is gone, he's got nothing.
Yeah, and PuppyPaw is just taking all the gold for himself. I love how he's taking the ones on the front line, and he's just saving all the gold back at home for darker times, which will never come, but still. Well, I guess RecoN is getting some Baoshuans out, though. Let's not forget, he's still 2 out of 5 for landmark snipes, and maybe he's getting desperate enough to try and do that now.
It's tough, though. I think the Temple of Sun on the north side might be a bit too far inland for him to reach here without...
Puppy has resources to just rush a new landmark, though, and I think he's going to do that. I think he knows what's coming.
PuppyPaw should be pushing around on the fishing at this point. If he does that, it should just be curtains closed, right? Because at that stage, RecoN has no food. It's only that fishing pond on the south side. I mean, Sacred Sites haven't been locked in, which is the most astonishing detail to me. It's like PuppyPaw could have had this timer going for at least 6 minutes at this stage.
Exactly. That's so weird. So PuppyPaw is sitting on a lot of resources. Makes me wonder what exactly he is planning to do. For RecoN, his chances are very slim. He's got 22 Palace Guards. Is he going to try to snipe, though? Because I think, honestly, I feel like PuppyPaw is just banking resources to quickly rush a landmark in case RecoN attempts a landmark snipe at this point.
Possibly? I'm still scratching my brain. Like, can we check RecoN's vision? Because I don't think he even sees the north side landmark. That's the big issue, right? Yeah, so he has no way of seeing up onto the high ground on the northwest side where there's a landmark. Like, screw these ones, right? It's the one on the northwest side. And no, the west vodka, to the west. The little thing that looks like a factory on the minimap in yellow. Bless him, I love doing this to him. He's like confused puppy face right now. On the north side beach to the left of it. Your idea of north and my idea. There we go. A round of applause for vodka. Temple of Sun up there, like it's not seen at all. So he doesn't know where it is. I don't think he ever scouted where it went.
Yeah, his Baoshuans also don't have nested bees on them, by the way.
I mean, that would require gold. Would you like to look at RecoN's gold and try not to scream?
At this point, I don't know what RecoN is planning. I think he should know how difficult his position is. I think these pictures from the central island should tell him that he's in big trouble. So this is not a matter of how do I come back into this game. It's a matter of how do I pull a Hail Mary to salvage this game. This is why I'm thinking about the landmark snipe, because at this point, that feels like his only option.
You know, it's kind of like, so here's the vile thing, by the way, is the why usually destroys Chinese in these Navy engagements as well. If you check that Temple of Sun, you'll notice something interesting. It should be on not movement speed, it should be on Divine Defense. So you should have more range on the Zhuji fleet anyway, so it makes it impossible trying to trade out evenly. Like, they always lose because of that difference in range of one tile.
PuppyPaw is just banking resources non-stop. It's interesting how he's not finishing this game, though, because, as you said, he could have the Sacred Sites. He could walk into RecoN's base at this point. If he switched to Lancers, for instance, he could just overrun those Palace Guards very easily.
Maybe he just feels like he's exhausting his opponent, right? Like, I imagine the game feels very comfortable for PuppyPaw at this stage, whereas RecoN, it has to get frustrating to a certain degree, right? Just trying to find ways out of the hole and every time coming up shy.
Yeah, I think part of this for PuppyPaw could also be that he doesn't want to gamble. He's in a comfortable spot. He's fine playing for 2 hours in this game if that needs to be the case.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for RecoN to essentially commit to something, and then he's going to finish him off. And RecoN, he does commit to something, but
yeah, let's not talk about
it's just too little too late.
By the way, I love the fact that he built the Imperial Academy in the enemy base in the end. I just noticed that. I guess it's the safest place for it to be. Doesn't really tax many buildings, sad face. That central island is an absolute travesty to look at this stage. You'd think they started on the outskirts and worked in.
Honestly, that central island looks like something that has been hit by a nuke.
It's that little, what's that island off the north side of Russia, the one that got hit with the SAR bomb? Yeah. You know what, we need to just quote Call of Duty, right? It's like 50,000 people used to live here. Now, no, it really is a ghost town, actually. There's a few scavengers around.
Yeah, I think RecoN is trying to boom back into this game with fishing boats. He's been hiding his fishing fleet away from his opponent, and right now, he's fishing close to the original spot where PuppyPaw landed. But these villagers are trapped in here in the corner. He doesn't seem to be responding to this. His landmark is going down. That's the third landmark he's going to lose. I think he could lose all his landmarks now because the Barbican is still intact, and that can be easily taken out by Puppy.
And his villagers are about to walk underneath where the Nestor Beast is firing, so he can turn into a massacre quickly here. Shots coming in. Looks like it was soaked by the landmark, but it is down. In the meantime, PuppyPaw building this Yuji library as safe as can be on the south side of the map. And the Mount Lu Academy somewhere else in an undisclosed location. I'm sorry, we can't reveal that to you as top secret, but what is not a secret is that RecoN has lost the first game. PuppyPaw opening up strong with his Yuji.
What a crazy game here, KP. I feel like the last 10 minutes or so have been lackluster, but before that, it was absolute madness. From the very beginnings of players not moving out to the outside, then the mass migration coming in, the land aggression of PuppyPaw, how RecoN ultimately secured the water. Things were so crazy, but in the end, I feel like the big difference was that Puppy's eco was never harassed on the outside. I think this villager plot tells you a lot. He never really faced harassment on the outside, whereas RecoN always had to run for his life, and ultimately he just got ground down by Puppy.
Yeah, I think this is the type of game that can either feel very fun or very exhausting, right? And I mean, RecoN usually tries to be a little bit of a positive fella, but sometimes, like, yeah, I've heard him before. He's like, "That's just stupid," right? This type of game may just feel a little bit dumb to him the way it played out in the end. But PuppyPaw, I mean, it has to be a confidence high. I think there were a few slip-ups there. Like, he 100% should have been locking those sacred sites. There's no reason not to. Even if you just feel like it's good to just drag the game, it's extra eco you're missing out on in a game where gold will matter a lot. But can't really fault him, man. Showing the power of Zhuji, and, you know, going into this tournament just beforehand, everyone's like saying Zhuji sucks, China is incredible. True on land maps, but when you flip it, script it, and stick it on a water map, all of a sudden you've got Zhuji proving to be quite the potent pick.
All right, it looks like we're going to be heading into game number 2, which will be played on Gorge. So a lot more classic of a map coming up here. That's going to be the map pick from the open maps category. And it's going to be a Byzantines versus English matchup, KP. Something that we pretty commonly see, and it often turns into longbow wars.
Yeah, and the thing is actually in this matchup, I think you hunker and fast castle as the English. There's no reason not to. Like, if you play into that field timing, you kind of play into the favor of the Byzantines. And PuppyPaw, he's actually really scary on the Civ. I think PuppyPaw is easily top like 3 English players in the game right now. I actually like I want to boldly say that he's the number one most scary player. Him and Wham actually. Like if you remember when the change hit with Abbey of Kings, they innovated like crazy. They were the quickest ones to discover the fast castle build. They discovered the fast Imperial build. They exposed how OP Wingard is, by the way. Like every single time I see Berkshire now, I'm like that. I'm that really kind of contradicting guy. You know how like you get the parents where it's like you say, "Can I?" And they go, "Can you?" Right? I think you mean may you. Like I'm always that guy now where I'm like, did you really need to build the Berkshire here? Because the Wingard is 10 times better. And the twins were the ones that exposed that. They showed just how dominant that landmark can be.
Well, remaining maps will feature quite some water if we get there. It's going to be Water Drake on the side of PuppyPaw from the hybrid category. From the water category, we do have Holy Island, and then if we go to the closed map category, we do have Woodwall coming up. Remaining civs, we do have quite a lot of variant civilizations for RecoN: Ayobids, Order of the Dragon, and the Delhi. Alongside the Abbasids, which I always forget because it's still just a black flag, and I think it's an icon missing. On the opposing side, you still have Japanese, the Jeanne d'Arc, of course, alongside Mongols and not KP, but Malians. I was about to ask KP, what do you think about the remaining civilization pool for these
I was
players?
going to say, am I a Civ now? Jesus, what Civ would I be? I'm curious what chat thinks of that. I don't know, like what Civ I'd be. I think I know. But yeah, looking at the drafts, the interesting one to me is going to be Water Drake. I imagine that could actually be Delhi. I think Delhi is kind of solid there. You've got 3 sacred sites. Cool thing about Delhi as well, they actually play into attack on water very, very well. I actually was expecting this to be a top tier pick on floodplains for that reason, because the whole idea is with manuscript trade, you produce at an insanely quick pace compared to any other Civ in the game off of one dock. Outside that, like someone like Japan, I'm imagining that's going to be saved for Holy Island. It has to be here. Other side of it, RecoN is going to be going to his tried and trusted Order of the Dragon there. There's no doubt in my mind. Woodwall probably going to be looking at what Ibids versus. I'd imagine that's where Mullins come out. I don't think you go something like Joan. Doesn't really make much sense. So, looking at Water Drake, that's still the big question mark for me. I'm not entirely sure where PuppyPaw is going with this. It could be Joan. I think Joan's kind of an intriguing idea. For a start, if you're up against Delhi, you actually counter them. Another thing is like actually Joan, you can go for those cheeky kind of outpost plays. You can try to pressure the water a little. And something I did notice is Joan's really effective on these type of water brawly maps, because whenever you kill a boat, it's a lot of XP, right? And if you go range form Joan, you have an easy way of sniping low HP boats. So we'll have to see if it gets there. But English versus Byzantines, it's a close one actually right now. I'm trying to think like if it does clearly favor one Civ. Byzantines have a really strong clean castle age timing. The only issue I see is like English with a hunkered down white tower 2TC build feel almost impenetrable. So usually the issue I see with Byzantine players is they rush the enemy base and they throw the game because of it.
Yeah, the last time these two players have played this specific map, Gorge, against each other was all the way back in the EGC finals last year. That time we did have a Rus mirror, and it was won by PuppyPaw. And I'm not gonna lie, KP, I think moving out, you had a higher chance for RecoN for winning that. This is a much more traditional map, and it's going to be potentially an uphill battle here for RecoN as we're heading into game number 2 versus PuppyPaw.
Whew, an exhausting game number 1, I imagine, on one side, a thrilling one on the other, but that's usually how those long slogs go. PuppyPaw, with his English, honestly, one of the strongest players on the Civ right now, and has so many flexible builds. I actually think him and Wham went through more mutations when the drop came in on the Abbey of Kings change than any other player I saw. They came up with so many incredible builds. The Abbey of Kings into full Feudal, the Abbey of Kings 2TC, Abbey of Kings Fast Castle, Abbey of Kings Fast Imp even. RecoN, however, has a very cool style of Byzantines. He's actually been bringing it around to the point that BC ended up even building a build order out of it and giving him credit. He's a big fan of horseman spam without Hippodrome. So I'm wondering if RecoN's going to try to play this all Feudal.
It could be an approach to take, especially because this is one of those maps where you have to leave that initial base very early on, and most of the resources that you will be taking in Feudal Age are fairly exposed, and they're on the flanks. You just have one wood line to work with, so that's a good target as well for cavalry raids. But you see that gold mine that PuppyPaw is taking, food as well, a little concerning once you need to move out, although with the English you can just play around farms. But in general, this is a very, very open map. It is in the open map category, but it's even more difficult to defend than, let's say, Dry Arabia. So a cavalry-based raid-heavy game is something that can work out very well in many cases.
Yeah, it's interesting actually because like Gorge is either a very open map or a very closed map. It doesn't have a mid ground, right? Like my classic saying about this map is Gorge either has no walls or all the walls, and we've seen
Yeah, that's
both
true.
types of games. And I think what's wild is like this matchup. It used to be Byzantines are really content with the idea of Imp Plus. I don't think that's true anymore though. Like English play really well into that hyper late game because of Network of Citadels when it doesn't bug out. Whereas Byzantines, I mean, Streltsy sucked against longbow spam anyway, right? But like now they're hard to scale. If you play longbows, you don't have that attack speed aura. So I feel like RecoN wants this game done sooner rather than later. Cavalry is bold to think about. I don't know if we go that deep into the conspiracy hole. Like, I know there's a certain player who was experimenting with it. He honestly, like, I'm pretty sure the guy had not seen light. He had not seen other humans for 2 months. He came in my chat regularly, be like, I'm telling you, the way is Hippodrome plus Sister to the First Hill. Mark my words. They'll be doing it 5 years from now. I was like, hold on a sec. I've said that in the past. If they're doing it 5 years from now, there's probably a reason they're not doing it right now, my friend. So we're going to be a bit more sane here. Grand Winery opening. Probably going to be looking at a Western contract here. It's interesting. Like, you'd think you'd want javelins against longbows, but with the fact that
What
RecoN
longbows? It's gonna be an Abbey opening.
That's true, but like the other reason is because RecoN likes playing horseman longbows. He loses mobility, but what he gains is a really strong punch for that one too, right?
Yeah, there's a reasonable chance that PuppyPaw is going to play heavy horseman over here, which is an old school build that rarely has been used back in the past. I remember Mista was the first player who went with the Abbey of Kings playing heavy horseman with the English.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible idea if you think about it, because you have a juggernaut food eco, and when you have a lot of food income from farming, you can spam horseman like a madman.
Yeah, it's actually pretty dirty here because, if you're quick enough, the longbow spam doesn't get fat enough to insta-snipe a horseman, so you just walk off here, walk off here, walk off here. It's crazy as well because this iteration is 10 times more powerful than the one that Mista used to flex on players.
Exactly, and you see, you already have a couple of early farms over here. Decent amount of sheep as well for PuppyPaw to work with. He's going to open with a king, which also will give you a very nice raiding unit. It's going to be your proxy knight, and that's the first unit that you can utilize to quickly put some pressure on RecoN. RecoN himself having reached Feudal Age just now. Let's take a look at his base, though, because I think it's fairly clear where PuppyPaw wants to go with this, but RecoN, he also wants to go with a horseman play for the time being.
You don't want to open Limitane, right? You're against Lombos. Like, you say he's not going to build Lombos, but if he sees you're building Limitane to go in on him, he's going to build Lombos, right? So you have two choices of RecoN. You either build a stables and you go in horseman to harass him away, or you build an outpost and spend your valuable initial stone on something other than buffing your economy. So, like, I like the way RecoN's playing this. He has a bit of a bad rap now as a turtley player, but he's actually being a little bit more scrappy, a little bit more trash pandery-like. I've noticed that in the last few weeks, that he's more interested in how he attacks early than how he survives.
I feel like the other problem with the Limitani simply is that you forfeit mobility if you go for them, and that's a very bad thing to do when the front of your base is so open.
We say that, but he's going to build Lombos, right? So it's like, it's one of those kind of catch-22s where the horseman will just kind of hold back your opponent, and then when you've got critical mass, you can move out the Lombos.
And you see the advantage of this king right off the get-go.
Yep.
One villager kill already, you can retreat, it's going to be a proxy knight, and any damage that's done to this king, it's not permanent, whereas the horsemen do suffer from a lot of damage over here for RecoN.
And PuppyPaw is doing it. Horseman pump now on the way, so King is just going to waste time, absorb this. I love that. He's trying to hide the play longer. He even guarantees he hides it as long as possible by smuggling the stables behind the TC. This is a really popular play. When Gorge first came out, players done it a lot. Players have caught on since. But the issue is when you have to contest the King, you can't go and scout it straight away, right? You have to address this problem first.
And notice the amount of farms that PuppyPaw is going for here. This is not just a, okay, I'm going to spam horsemen with the sheep I have, with the berries I have. There's a lot of sustainability behind this, because those farms will never expire. He does have one of the strongest elements of the English economy already working for him, and it's going to provide a lot of sustainability, whereas when you look at RecoN's base, most of his food income right now is based off berries that are being depleted very quickly.
Yeah, and no early farms coming in, which is something that PuppyPaw revolutionized, that idea of 1 or 2 early olive groves, because they're so damn efficient. It's going to be the Eastern Merc contract. Interesting choice here. So a full Cav comp coming out. And, you know, speaking of farms, like there's farms coming the other side. A bit of an interesting way of building for PuppyPaw. That's simply because all of his villagers are allergic to the berries. Yeah, he's got to keep them as far away from the berries as possible. It is a bit of a funky one.
You can see how locked in PuppyPaw is on the food, by the way. He's already growing for the food upgrade, whereas on the other side, RecoN is going for a more conventional double broad axe approach. But that king in the middle is just such a tanky unit. And don't forget, many of these horsemen from RecoN are already banked up.
Yeah, nice micro bat. PuppyPaw says, catch me if you can. I mean, this chase is not going to work, right? Like, if it was anything but horsemen, yes. But this is the sad reality. It's like, unless RecoN outplays, out-micros, it's going to feel like a very slow death.
Yeah, it's just looking so grim for him. He used up all of his olive oil. I'm actually unsure where. He's gotten a mercenary contract, but I think it might have been the Eastern mercenaries, right?
Yeah, he got Keshix. He went full Cavcom.
Yeah.
But, like, this is a problem now, because if PuppyPaw just builds Spearman, you're dead, right? Like,
yeah, it's a very, very one-dimensional composition.
Yeah, but here's a funny thought for you. What if he doesn't build Spearman, and in the extreme OP-ness of healing, which is, I'm just going to build Horseman the entire game?
That's also an option. I think Keshik are nice, but you cannot constantly mass-produce those Keshik because you don't have that much sustainability when it comes to the olive oil income. Whereas for PuppyPaw, look at what he's doing. PuppyPaw has the same amount of horsemen as his opponent, but he has a massive food bank, 400 food in the bank, also a lot of gold. Makes me wonder if he's thinking about Castle Age here.
It'd be very greedy at this stage. You have to play a longer Feudal first. You'll get
but
caught
it's a lot of villagers on gold then. It's way too many.
It could just be all the eco upgrades, right? He hasn't got the lumberjack upgrades. He still
maybe
has to
heavy
get
blacksmith, but
yeah.
Oftentimes the amount of villagers you have on gold is a strong indicator of you trying to get to Castle Age. And he's also banking a lot of food, not queuing any more horsemen. So that's why I'm thinking maybe he feels like, okay, we could double down on this. Either go for a white tower and start mass-producing knights with that, or just start to build up an eco lead with the town center landmark.
I think you go King's Pass here because like you're building spears, right, to insulate yourself. And by building spears, you're actually spending 66% of what you already were. So you will actually have extra resources floated. And this is all because of what RecoN's done, right? Like when you see someone in this matchup go for the Eastern contract, they're telling you that it's Feudal or bust, right? Like what do you get when you go Castle Age? Gulums? Dude, Gulums, I can't think of many worse matchups than building Gulums into armor-clad men-at-arms, right? It's the stuff of nightmares. So you get no value there. You're going to try to brute force with Keshix, but your count never feels high enough. Like it's pretty much RecoN stuck in a hole. If he can't raid and do eco damage in the next 3 minutes, no, 3, right? Like 2, he's dead.
Yeah, I love this escalation for PuppyPaw, by the way. It's very similar to what we've seen in the previous game. He isn't looking to finish this game right now, he's looking to build a lead, and that's exactly what he's doing. He already has a good farming eco set up. It's going to get even better once he gets to Castle Age. And because RecoN didn't aggress him, it allows him to get up to Castle Age. He's going to get that second town center from the King's Palace, and he can start building up a sizable eco lead. And you know, KP, when you compare those economies, it looks grim for RecoN. He's got limited sustainability, no farms whatsoever, limited map control as well.
No, keep going. Keep RecoN. Keep going. No, keep going. Just a little bit further, dude. The scout was a tile away from revealing the tech up.
I mean, he's going to know soon enough, so it is what it is.
Just have to wait until his birthday to get the surprise. Meanwhile, Raid comes in the other side. And this is the rough part, right? Like, I think RecoN, because of the horseman detail, he has to defend with some of his forces. If he sent everything in, it would have been a full dive, and he would have found it, right? He would have possibly GG PuppyPaw in that very instance. So because half his army is here defending, because he plays pocket resources, PuppyPaw gets away with this.
I don't think he could have stopped that landmark. There was a tower and there was an English town center right next to it. He probably would have slowed it down, but he needed to sacrifice most of his army to do that. Nevertheless, we have Castle Age in here for PuppyPaw. Silver lining for RecoN is that he started banking up resources himself, and he also has a nice cutoff over here, just kind of herding the army of PuppyPaw around. But RecoN himself is going to head to Castle Age.
Yeah, Golden Horn Tower as is standard. He has, of course, the Grand Winery to go for those relics. The unfortunate detail is that PuppyPaw is already prepping the first layer of knights, so might be difficult to protect those relics. Limitane switch also now coming in to mirror the spears on the other side. I'm curious where PuppyPaw takes this. Like, typically you want to lean into going for men-at-arms, but it is a bit dicey when you're up against Varangian spam on the other side.
Yeah, I think he's going to continue with some cavalry, and he needs to get some raids going. He can defend with the spears. He also has a very condensed base. His food and gold eco are very safe. And at the same time, RecoN's food eco isn't safe. He isn't on farms. He's on berries. He's on hunt, potentially. And that's exactly the primary target for PuppyPaw.
I mean, can we check RecoN? Like, RecoN hasn't got a single farm still, right? Like,
No, not a single olive grove.
Which is so unusual, considering olive groves are by far the most overpowered farm in the game.
Oh, no.
And this raid...
That is disastrous, though.
I mean, there's not even enough safe points there, right? Yeah, the villagers have to run off in the opposite direction. Luckily, it looks like PuppyPaw didn't realize straight away. But still, a little bit of chip damage here or there, while the two TCs go on the other side is a problem. RecoN needs to return fire.
Yeah, and again, sustainability is a problem. PuppyPaw is not going to run out of juice because he does have the farms working. For RecoN, when he runs out of berries or when he runs out of hunt, or those just get raided, he's going to drop to basically no food income.
And we have to remember there are more and more knights coming, right? Whereas RecoN can't mirror that. Keshiks at this scaling point don't really match, right? You're not going to have enough of them. And you can't build cataphracts because you came to win a competitive series of AOE IV, not lose one.
It's going to be a heavy infantry mix, though, now for RecoN. He's mixing in some Limitani, but more importantly, Varangians are on the way for him. But I think one of the key things here, KP, is that PuppyPaw hasn't yet used his knights to raid. It's been just the king and the horseman. When the knights arrive to raid, that's going to be a very different scenario.
Yeah, like he's got a handful of Limitane, but it's not out of this world, especially when you're playing pocket flank resources like this. Spearman upgrade hasn't even been there, by the way. PuppyPaw's now only getting into that, and that's going to give him more agency to roam with the knights, right? Because then he can trust Spearman to hold his base, especially with that delicious attack speed. Flank raid, villagers. A little bit of clownery there from the horseman pathfinding. Not sure how no villagers died from that. Knights. Oh.
That's a nice pinch. That's a very nice pinch by RecoN.
Where are the spears, though?
I think they are actually in there. At least some of them.
No, they're in the min-map fighting, right? Like,
yeah, that's about...
Oh my god, no.
Oh, that's disaster. That is complete disaster from PuppyPaw. He lost his knights. I think he lost a couple of spearmen there as well, but most of his spearmen are busy fighting Varangians in the middle of the map.
I mean, talk about sticking the wrong units in the wrong place there. Fighting up against Varangian with the spears, all of a sudden there's an opportunity now, potentially to break in here. He's still got a decent number of Keshiks. Horseman's still buffering this. Spearman count is rebolstering at home, but behind this, the Varangian spam continues, and this is bad for PuppyPaw. If he gets locked into spears, and 20 plus Varangian flood this base, it will kill the game.
The previous fight was taken outside the network of Castle's aura as well. I think he just got baited out of his base. I think he's going to hold this, though. This is going to be a nice cleanup with the Spearman and the Knights using the attack buff as well. He is going to lose a couple of villagers, but that just makes the villager count a little less worse for RecoN. There's actually quite a lot of villagers now getting picked off. But at the same time, RecoN's army is gone, and he's still facing 6 Knights with 3 more in queue.
And RecoN's like, I want to stay underneath that TC for longer. Undermesh now on the way as the Varangian's going to start scaling up. RecoN has got a fragile eco at this stage. You have to remember he's still playing berries, still playing pocket resources. So it's not that insanity we're used to seeing.
Well, you're saying he's playing berries, but he's running out. He's down to 300 food per minute, which is just not great. And he lost most of his valuable troops to Keshiks as well. He's now making Varangians, but compared to the Knights, they're still slow. Puppy is switching into crossbows, so he's going to have a response to that. And he's going to have that mobility advantage with the Knights to start raiding the base of his opponent.
It's crazy to think how much better I'd feel about this game for RecoN if we just had 10 groves around that Grand Winery earlier.
Yes, 100%.
Flash coming in. Varangian should get mopped up in the end, courtesy of the Knights being involved in, but second wave Varangian should flip that. Crossbows are now being added in by PuppyPaw, which would be a solid solution to the Varangian spam.
Yeah, but see, this is the problem. Varangian spam is one thing. Diving into the enemy base when they have crossbows over there with the English attack buff is not really something that you can do just yet. But at the same time, those English Knights are roaming the map, starting to look for villagers. Credit to RecoN, though. Despite all these raids, he only lost 2 villagers. A lot of his villas are very banked up, but he hasn't started losing villagers despite all these raids.
It's still a 12 eco lead for PuppyPaw in a game where they're both now racing for relics. And you have to remember, RecoN doesn't have much map control now with the way his army switched up, right? Whereas PuppyPaw still has a decent number of knights to flood the flanks with. It means it's going to be very difficult to try and sneak these priests out.
Yeah, Knight Count isn't looking very fancy for PuppyPaw, though. He's been taking some prolonged engagements against all these Varangians. But once the crossbows start arriving, that's going to be a very different setup, and that's exactly what we're having over here. Spearmen, Knights, crossbows. Not a composition that RecoN can fight against right now.
Yeah, and at this point, the Knights can actually just go flank raiding, right? Like, you can actually trust spears and crossbows to deliver up against Varangian here. I mean, RecoN, at this stage, I think you wish you were just getting more Keshiks than Gulams, so you could at least try to chip damage your opponent. Because at this stage, like, PuppyPaw is reaching that phase where he's going to have to start breaking flank resources, right? Like, we check his gold at home. I imagine he's down to, like, 800 gold, maybe. So he's going to have to come out to play. And this is where you actually want Cav. Now, if we check PuppyPaw's home gold. Yeah, there you go. It's gone. So
Yeah,
this is the perfect time to get some Keshiks out.
Yeah, I agree with you. But this is also the time where RecoN is investing his resources into a farm transition or olive grove transition. Now,
So you're saying this is the perfect time to die.
well, you're saying that, but at the very least, PuppyPaw running out of gold will slow down his momentum. RecoN is still down by 16 eco, but let's not forget, first of all, he has the edge when it comes to relic count as things stand. And more importantly, now he's got an insane amount of olive oil income. And that's going to help a lot with getting some mercenaries out and compensating for that eco deficit that he has.
We have at least now got teardrop shields coming on, which is pretty big here for Limitane, right? Like, actually, Limitane get kind of absurd when they chase down Cav with that tech. I still think it's a little bit overtuned for what it does, basically giving you the ability to chase down heavy Cav. So, stone being gathered up. I imagine we're looking at a keep drop on the fat gold on the west side, and that also protects the stone in the back corner. So a lot of value over there. I don't think you need to rush network citadels. Nice hit with the Knights on the flank, though, and a weird split by RecoN sends half the villages to the east side.
That's bad for RecoN, though. He already had a bad villager count compared to what PuppyPaw has, but now he's going to start losing villas. And remember, he suffered from a lot of raids before, so many of the villagers are low HP, making it a lot easier for these knights to finish them off.
Is PuppyPaw just going to do it? Is he going to pull the trigger? Because I've seen this build. It's actually vicious how quickly Imp comes in with Wingguard. It just allows you to flood troops. Usually the value of that is a Raiders contract, so I think that's the only reason he might not is because it's Limitane. If it was, for example, Varangian, you could just flood Wingguard Raiders, right? Because, like, Knights will beat Varangian.
I'm getting a deja vu to the previous game now, though. Because PuppyPaw's eco is untouched for the last, like, 5 to 10 minutes, even. Maybe not 10, but 5 to 8 minutes. And at the same time, RecoN is starting to lose villagers. You look at his overall resource income, it's depressing, and it's very similar to what we had in the previous game. Death by 1,000 cuts, his eco slowly being crowned down by Puppy.
Yeah, it's tough for RecoN, right? Like, you know, he's trying to play this more aggressive style AOE IV, and he does very well in the opening minutes, but then it kind of reaches this mid-game where it's starting to look uncomfortable, which is unusual for him. His signature style used to be mid-game, it starts to come together hard, and then late game couldn't be more cozy. But at this stage of the game, like, if you're playing Byzantines, mid-game is where you thrive. Is your biggest power spike in the entire game. He's just not able to easily find it.
And that's exactly what's happening. Those crossbows are struggling against the Limitani, and PuppyPaw opts to charge him with the Knights, fighting against the Spearman-style unit. That is a horrendous fight, and that's exactly what RecoN needed to potentially come back into this game.
Yeah, it's like, if you're just going Spearmen or Men-at-Arms here, right? Like, it makes a lot more sense, because then you have a solid front line, and the Knights just roam. Like, your Knights should be increasing your eco lead, not decreasing your military lead.
Yeah, I feel like those Knights were supposed to do a lot more raiding, because these Limitani, they can't really fight inside your base when you have crossbows nearby as well. There's no way that RecoN can dive this, at least not without losing these troops. And if you just use your Knights to wipe out RecoN's eco, that should be enough for PuppyPaw to win this game.
I mean, he's so desperate to get the troops out, he's actually prioritizing armor-clad over veterancy for Men-at-Arms. Knights are prowling now, but credit to RecoN, he's starting to get those walls up on the south side. So he's layering himself in, he's blocking from raids. We're going to get a deeper game, but there is still a bigger issue that concerns me here. It's a 3-2 relic split in a game now where you are 34 villages behind.
That's the problem for RecoN. He lost a lot of villagers, and it's not just the villager casualties, it's also the fact that he's playing against 2 TCs with just 1 on his own. Of course, olive oil does compensate for some of that. That's a secondary resource that you're passively getting. But at the same time, we're also getting to the stage where the English eco is really getting unlocked. Soon, this could be an Imperial Age game, and that's where the English farms really become monsters.
Yeah, I think what PuppyPaw is looking at now is like, okay, you built a lot of Limitane, not Varangian. However, you know, the other issue for RecoN is I mentioned these Gooms before and how they suck in this matchup. Your opponent's now building mass men at arms and you've built Golems, right? These units do not perform well. Remember, they have a double tap. They perform well against squishy targets. Armor-clad men at arms are anything but that. Raid on the eco. Some chip damage done here, but the keep should be able to defend this. So
Yep. You could argue that this is better for PuppyPaw than it is for RecoN, because again, RecoN's eco isn't spectacular, so losing all those units for what is basically no villager kills, that's actually a little underwhelming.
this little raid is going to be a little bit too slow. It's interesting though, because if he actually just dropped the shields and ran with the spears, he'd be able to move a bit quicker. Also, another interesting detail, network of citadels on the way. PuppyPaw is a smart boy. He'll know what that means. It means he has to build new outposts, otherwise he'll completely lose the aura.
Love this keep though from RecoN. His farms are extremely exposed on the front line. That keep is going to buy him a lot of precious time. His food eco is getting back on track, but his eco in general is still quite a bit behind compared to his opponents. But once again, PuppyPaw is taking a fight that's a little uncomfortable potentially. He's fighting against a lot of Limitani with the Knights.
It's actually
but it looks like it's not enough Limitani.
Yeah, it's actually Gulems in there. I think that was most of his Gulems just getting wiped out, which is grim, right? Like, these units were not going to perform well, but the least you could say of them is they're tanky, right? They should be able to protect something, but they protect nothing there. Second wave is going to come in on the west side. There's new troops reacting there as well. The interesting part is, like, the Blacksmiths have been, like, lagging behind. They were in the early phase of the game. They have been here as well. But they are starting to come through. And, you know, when you consider these men-at-arms, they are going to be kings amongst peasants when you get in these fights. Like, unless RecoN can get 30 crossbows to give a stat, he won't have an answer to this.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing signs of collapse here from RecoN, I feel, because his population is just looking grim, and he lost most of his troops. PuppyPaw, he got most of his knights butchered by Limitani as well, but it's just an eco juggernaut at this point. PuppyPaw is having so much of an easier time replenishing his lost troops compared to RecoN.
Somehow watching the way these units die to PuppyPaw is... it's making me feel worse than when we saw that villager pull in the first series, right? Like, somehow that looked like a better idea than these fights he's being forced to take. And it's like, it's forced errors, right? Because he can't allow any of these things to get through. But it means that we are kind of in a death spiral now, right? Like a 40+ eco lead at the stage, PuppyPaw's just going to go in. And this should just be a wing guard. There's zero pressure on him to go Berkshire.
Exactly. It's pretty much the same game all over. RecoN is holding on, but every minute that passes, his position gets weaker and weaker.
Yeah, I don't even know if to say holding on. It's more like he's going through the stages of grief, right? Which is currently in denial. Reinforcements arriving, and all of a sudden you don't have the numbers. In fact, you're completely outnumbered here. RecoN forced to retreat. Tech up, now ready to be triggered, and it is indeed going to be the Wingard Palace.
You could have argued that for a Berkshire in the middle.
No.
I mean...
No.
Yes.
No. Stop barking. It ain't happening. It's win in the name, it's win in the game. Wingard Palace every day of the week, my friend. PuppyPaw is a man of prestigious talent. He understands that. This castle isn't even going to go up. This is it.
Lord
the game
Dowd
is
is going to smile upon us, but RecoN will stop that from happening. He's going to tap out of this one. And KP, very similar game to game number 2 here. There were some things going well for RecoN, but especially in this game, you could just see that PuppyPaw, once he had some map control, once he had some momentum, he just escalated that into a massive eco lead. And really, this villager graph tells you the whole story of the game.
There were some things going well for RecoN in that game. Oh, yeah, it was quicker than game 1. Yeah. I mean, in fairness to him, right, like the reaction was kind of forced that he had to go to Horseman, but after that, it just went off script in a really rough way. It's a tough game, man. I think, like, PuppyPaw, he did play that a bit messy. The Knights especially was the detail I didn't like. I think he threw a lot of them away unnecessarily. He jumped his timing moving out the base. Like, his goal is to raid and just defend, and this is, I think, the thing that makes English, in some ways, an atrociously designed civ. The difficulty to dive them. Like, any other civ in that situation, the way that PuppyPaw was playing it, there was a point, if you remember, where RecoN was about to dive the enemy base, but he couldn't because double archer fire from TC and attack speed aura. Like, why does the English have both of these things, especially in the position they're in? I've been calling it for a while. I actually think the Network of Castles needs a rework, like an activatable temporary buff or something like that. It being a permanent aura just means any time you dive the English, you feel like you're losing the fight, right? Like, you've been there, I've been there. We've all watched those games as well as played them, where you feel, yes, now is my go point. I will break their base. You dive in, 2 minutes later, your entire army is dead, and their villagers are back to work. Like, it doesn't feel good. So, yeah, a bit of a tough one from that perspective. I think the only way RecoN can win that is if he's technologically ahead and gets the Varangian flood together, but it's so difficult with the way PuppyPaw plays that. It does mean, though, we are going to be heading that wood wall, and that is, as expected, going to be the Abbasid Malian matchup.
Interesting setup over here, especially because I'm curious how PuppyPaw is going to play this. Game number 2, we've seen that if RecoN isn't aggressing him, he's just going to play that heavy eco-escalation, and that's where Malians are exceptionally dangerous at. If you don't pressure those Malians, they're going to just steamroll you with all that passive gold income. At the same time, RecoN is one of those players that likes to just whip out that trade build. We've actually seen him do that in previous tournaments a couple of times before. And I feel like, especially down 2-0, he might need to go for a more high upside and risky build here. So I would not be shocked to see RecoN going for a trade wing here.
And he's the tricky trader. I gave him that name for a very good reason. The weirdest of games will find a way of trading. It might be his only way. Like, I do prefer to go trade over going 2TC because it returns investment quicker. And I think your goal here could be fast castle. Like, there's actually a lot of viability behind that. You know, if your opponent does go mass sofas, camera ride is kind of feasible. There's a lot of berries on the flank, actually. So another value in trading is you're going to want to wall the flanks quickly to enable that. And you'll want to play onto the berries anyway. So could be a nice way for RecoN to play this. Wouldn't even mind the idea of an early ram to contest the early pit mines because the military wing gives you that play. So we'll have to see which way he leans. But you know, thinking on how this series progresses from here, RecoN's draft does have some value to it if it goes deeper. He's got Order the Dragon. I don't know if they'll be able to beat Japanese on Holy Island, but he does still have the Delhi or the Ibids, both very potent picks for a map like Water Drake. PuppyPaw is, meanwhile, a little bit of a question mark. I'm still not sure Mongols zone how they're going to perform. Have to see if we get there. As it currently stands, PuppyPaw on match point. We hop into game number 3 to see if RecoN can pull one back or if PuppyPaw is going to be an unstoppable force of nature in the group stage.
With the color purple, we have RecoN playing as the Abbasid dynasty to the left, and to the right side of the map, it's going to be PuppyPaw, now with a 2-0 lead, playing as the Malians. And you know, KP, we've been theory crafting about this at the very beginning. Could we see some trade going on here for RecoN? He needs a high upside build, and to be fair, there is a market that's like perfectly positioned for him to the east of his base. I think that's going to be his primary target if he wants to go for that. At the same time, there is also a very interesting setup to the left of the map. Most of the berries spawn in that area, and you have 4 out of 5 relics there as well. So there is an insane amount of value on the western side of the map.
Like, also, what the duck are these spawns? I feel like RecoN locked out there, right? Imagine you have PuppyPaw spawn those berries. That is so easily playable, right? Whereas he got quite a spread formation that's going to require a much deeper wall. But yeah, if he wants to go for that trade, he's definitely have to wall early. I think it's going to be very difficult to hide that info long term. Like, it's almost going to be obvious the moment the walls go up that you're playing greedy in some form. Like, that's always the thing when you do that on this map. You're telling your opponent you're being greedy. And if you're against a Malian player that you know could Fulani fast castle, it says a lot about what your game plan is.
I think one build that would be intriguing for PuppyPaw would be Warrior Scouts. That's something that you sometimes see from Malians if they are concerned about the trade of the opponent. And the thing with Warrior Scouts is that if you really aren't getting any value from them combat-wise, you can just use them to ferry in potential deer carcasses. So I feel like Warrior Scout opening would be a reasonable one here for PuppyPaw. And that way he could easily tell if there is going to be any kind of trade going on from RecoN, and if so, he could easily shut it down.
I think you're looking at the wrong player, mate. If someone was going to do Pro Scouts Open, it would be RecoN in this matchup. That guy's obsessed with it right now. Very unique style of Malians he's been playing, where he masses scouts and then builds archers or javelins to support. I don't think PuppyPaw is of the same mind. He seems to tend to favor that fast castle when it's given to him. It is going to be the military wing opening we talked about, though. So he's going to look to apply some pressure to that initial gold vein. Manticore as expected on the other side. So no signs of trade just yet. It's not completely encompassing, though, right? Like, realistically, if you think about it, trade wing kind of sucks to begin with because your House of Wisdom's not across the map from the trade post, right? There is always a potential for market trade later. It's just for now, RecoN needs to block the greed of the Malians.
Yeah, he needs to put some pressure on PuppyPaw because one thing we have seen in the previous two games is that if PuppyPaw is not facing a lot of pressure from RecoN, he's going to boom away with the game and eventually find a weak spot at RecoN's base. I feel like that level of aggression at the beginning would be nice, and he's pulling a villager as well. I think it's going to be for towers. He's going to be very aggressive over here. It's definitely a more exposed gold mine over here for PuppyPaw, but RecoN needs to make something happen in this game, and I feel like that gold mine spawn provides him an opportunity for this.
I mean, I'm getting a little bit skeptical of the way that village is moving. Maybe he's just trying to sneak it all the way around so it doesn't get seen, but...
I mean, too late. Although, did PuppyPaw actually see it? This is, again, a discussion we had before. It's in your line of sight, but if you're not paying attention to that area, you might not actually notice it.
Let's pause the game and ask him. Probably not a good idea. But yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one, right? Like, you'd expect him to see it, this kind of caliber of play, right? At this stage of the game, also your opponent is playing purple against a green background. I'm wondering, is he just going to wall it off? Because he's sitting right near the trade post right now. He's not doing anything. Oh!
Okay.
Okay, that's kind of cool. So, PuppyPaw hasn't scouted back for this yet. Now, this is really popular at the moment. I've noticed a lot of Basset players have started doing this in the military wing, because when you go for the stables, you have the holy triangle, right? You have all three corners, all counters. And all you have to do is spend 150 wood and then the resources for the units to do that, which is insanely efficient.
Exactly. And think about it this way. If RecoN is aggressing this pit mine with the 2 spears and 2 archers, easiest thing for PuppyPaw to do is to just get 1 or 2 javelin men out. Those will push away both of those units. But suddenly it gets a little more weird once horsemen are out. And it looks like the opening from PuppyPaw is going to be a range with archers on the way. So those horsemen could find some juicy targets.
That's what makes this play so good. It's like the atypical reaction to seeing the military wing is you build 3 archers, right? And that counts at all. That's why the horseman strat is so good. It ruins your strat. And now look, dude, he's pivoting javelins. He's flailing like a fish right now, and he doesn't realize it. You know, he wishes he was flailing like a Gyarados, but it's not going to be like that. It's not just the horseman, it's now the archery to follow up. Dude, I think RecoN has been queuing into drag around the ladder. There's an infamous Abbasid player who, on any civ, actually will proxy base you and then ram rush you. And I'm thinking that's what RecoN is up to here.
Yeah, and you see PuppyPaw is concerned about this. He's dropping a barracks immediately. There's a range as well for RecoN. There's a mill.
The whole base, baby! We're moving abroad!
Gotta love how he's using that one proxy mill with a single mill up front.
Gotta make a return, dude. You don't need to add another archer range yet, but in a minute. Track's now coming in as well from PuppyPaw, so gonna try to cover his bases. Oh, this is dicey though, because you know, if PuppyPaw ever forfeits any sort of defense point there, then he can't access wood, right? Like, wood wall is a very punching map when it comes to the wood lines.
Yeah, it's wood denial is definitely something that you can aim for. And the way that the map spawned is that you do have those tiny clumps of trees, and that's exactly what PuppyPaw is taking. To his credit, his base is very nice and condensed, so RecoN has to loop all the way around to hit these lumberjacks to the north, so that's actually buying a lot of precious time here for PuppyPaw to get some more javelin throwers and some Donsos out.
RecoN is scaling up the archer count now. Looks like the secondary force is going for the tree line on the north side of the base, so PuppyPaw is going to get jumped there. Horseman here means he should be able to get at least 1 kill, but hesitation immediately sets in.
Yeah, he likely wants to keep these troops nearby to harass the lumberjacks that come back, and at the same time use the archers plus a ramp to push that pit mine, just do a pincer move. But he's giving a lot of time here for PuppyPaw to build up his defenses, and I'm getting a little concerned about this. RecoN is also walling off the far north, by the way, so a lot of things happening for him here. It's a big investment for a player that wants to go very aggro.
I think he's setting up trade, right? Like
that's
there's a
what I'm
unit
thinking too.
to the west of his base. There's near the tree line. I'm just not sure what it is. So RecoN's definitely up to something weird. I think maybe it's the lumber camp.
Here's the thing. If you are trying to play very aggressive and try to do a lot of damage early on, you won't be committing to that expensive wall, especially because PuppyPaw's army is slow moving. So the only way that you wall this off is indeed if you need some immediate benefits from it. And yeah, going for trade could be interesting this way, because I don't think that he can finish PuppyPaw off with 1 push here. So I just feel like
I mean, he
you need to
could.
get some walls up and potentially some trade.
There is a way, Lidicore. I mean, it's not illegal, but you know, it's almost like dark magic.
Clown Gary. Sure, but it's
in
an
this
all-in
game?
approach.
I mean, I can see it working in this type of game. Like when you bait someone to go hard into jab like this, nice raid onto the tree line though.
Yeah.
Doesn't actually get that second wall up in. Gets a bit paranoid if the Donzos show up. It's interesting as well because PuppyPaw's playing very risky the way he split his troops there. Donzos and javelins on opposite sides gives ripe opportunities for horsemen.
Yeah, this is a really good attack. That's a lot of horsemen and archers, and I agree. If he wants to clown car this, let's go for it. I'm just puzzled why he's building a wall if that's the plan. If he wants to finish this game with an all-in style attack, then he doesn't need those walls.
Maybe he's worried about like 1 or 2 jabs. Like the thing you have to remember is RecoN's entire base is on the south side of the map. So if like 2 units sneak in on the north side, he has 0 defenses, right? So it does make sense from that perspective. It just keeps the narrative where your base is.
I can see that, but I think this is an interesting debate because especially considering that he started building those walls when he still had units nearby. Anyway, for the time being, he has done a good job pressuring PuppyPaw's eco. A lot of idle villagers. He also picked off 3 vills, and there is no second pit mine working for PuppyPaw. So,
Here we go. There it is. The tricky trader.
okay,
The trash
so
bander we know.
at least I won't be trash talked saying that I'm talking complete nonsense while casting.
You know, casting is a trade of words. Trading is a way of life for RecoN. I mean, I knew it was going to come at some point. On a map like this, he can't resist it, dude. He's like DD with the big red button from Dex's laboratory, you know? He has to press it.
Yeah, I just feel like RecoN is not that YOLO all-in style player. And especially this setup, we've seen this, when Malians were released, we've seen this type of an approach being attempted over and over against them. And like 8 out of 10 times, you cannot finish this game with aggression and Feudal Age only. Javelin throwers have great range. Players will pull villagers to take out your ram, and if your push fails, you are done in that game. So I feel like it's nice to have RecoN setting up a second layer to this.
Well, the cool thing about this as well is, like, once you tech up, you have Gulams, right? And the enemy's entire army is going to get countered by Gulams. Because, like, why would you build Musafadi ahead of Castle Age against Abbasis? Like, you like winning games. You don't do that. So, like, you have a big problem. We've been seeing this. A few cities are very good at this. They bait Malians to overcommit into Feudal. And when they upgrade, their army just has almost no value.
And this is an interesting setup because PuppyPaw, from his perspective, he sees a lot of units being committed to a big proxy base as well from his opponent. So for him, the primary deal is dealing with this army. He is actually very far from being able to worry about the trade that's on the other side. And I like how RecoN is doing this. This is the main show here, the trade, but his opponent isn't able to pay attention to the main show because he's distracted by this aggression.
Wait, hold on. Is he trading to both trade posts? Like, dude, we're not doing an achievement here. There's not 100% completion rate for trade, right? You don't, unless I miss something, this isn't Exodia. You don't unlock something special from doing this.
I would not be a big fan if he traded to this southern trading post. If he does that, there's a chance that
He's already doing
learns
it.
about it. Whereas trading to the other one just keeps things hidden for a long, long time.
But hear me out. You walled the east side, so when he sees it on the south side, he's like, oh, he's trading over here. And then he never looks at the east side, Lidicore. There, we figured it out.
This could, I mean, you have a lot of benefits to that if you think about it, because right now he's got double the trader production. He's making traders on 2 markets at the same time. And, I mean, even if one of those neutral markets gets shut down, well, he still has the second one working for him.
Militarily as well, like PuppyPaw is just investing so much. He's still paranoid. He doesn't know, right? Like, there's no way you can get info for free now. That wall on the north side, like we said, it makes sense that it's not about trade. It's about raid, right? So you now have to try and get a scout in on the west side, a scout you don't even have. You don't want to have to invest in another scout you know it's never getting through. So it's realistic that RecoN could tech up at a similar time to PuppyPaw here.
Yeah, I think the key thing here for PuppyPaw is that he saw RecoN not committing. He should know that something is up now. 3 or 4 minutes ago, he probably didn't know because there was a lot of aggression coming from RecoN. But the fact that RecoN is kind of pulling back and playing a lot more careful, this should tell PuppyPaw that this is not the main show. This is not all in aggression. Something else must be happening inside RecoN's space. Whether that's 2 TCs or trade, I mean, he might not be certain, but one thing is sure, now PuppyPaw knows that RecoN is doing something.
I mean, you say that, but like RecoN's army is quite sizable, right? It's like PuppyPaw, he starts to respect this. Looks like he's finally getting ready to pull the trigger on Castle Age. RecoN nowhere nearby. He may have to consider just canceling any units queued the moment he sees that tech up.
Yeah, he's got a lot of wood. He had a lot of wood in the bank. Now, he could also double down on this if he sees Castle Age. He's got double the army compared to his opponent, and that's no joke. He's also grabbing blacksmith upgrades, not something that PuppyPaw has.
And one thing I don't like is RecoN's got double scout. He's not even trying to insert himself in for info right now. Like, if we check his vision on the map, he's playing very tight. I'm not a fan of this. Like, you know, you can afford to take a risk with a scout. It's worth it if you get the timing right.
Speaking of which, PuppyPaw doesn't have a single scout, so he's very much deprived of vision.
You're a Malian player. What do you need to see? You see your landmark, you see it's good, you like free food. Nothing else matters in the game, Litico.
Eco better for RecoN, army count almost double of his opponents. This is the first game where RecoN seems to have a definitive lead over his opponent, I feel.
Would really benefit from boot camp. I don't think he ever got it. It's kind of surprising at this stage in the game. Yeah, I wonder if he just forgot about it. It's very cheap when you've got this many infantry.
And he might need it, because this is the point where Malians reach their power spike. This early mid-Castle Age is where Malians thrive the most. And if he wants to fight, he needs that upgrade.
PuppyPaw just chilling though. RecoN starting to stockpile resources. He can still add in more archers, right? Like he's got way too much food, not enough gold. So, and archers aren't a terrible bet here, right? Like composite bows really goes hard in this when you get late into the game. In fact, like if you have Abbasid archers versus Malian archers, Abbasid archers will win. Full stop.
I honestly feel like PuppyPaw is being his playstyle, or is having his playstyle being exploited right now. RecoN saw the previous games and saw that PuppyPaw, if he can sit back and boom, he's going to do that, and he's doing that with the Malians. But at the same time, RecoN is just going to say, okay, I'm going to posture in front of your base, never dive in, and just boom harder than you do. And look at this proxy base. It's like 7 production buildings.
Yep. And PuppyPaw's like, what? Why is all this here and you're not attacking me? He's going to start torching it down. Now, this is where you pivot the trade to the other side fully. Like, just don't even reveal what you're doing yet.
And that's why it's so cool. And I don't think PuppyPaw knows about the size of that trade yet.
Yeah, and the walls. Check the walls as well. RecoN's like, okay, now I hunker down. Now, this is fine. As long as I survive the Castle Age, I know I can be stronger. The goal now is to out-survive the Malian spam point.
Exactly. This is the big power spike for Malians, but you have twice the army. You need to make sure it's Castle Age upgraded. And ironically, PuppyPaw is being hurt by the fact that he's taking out these production buildings. Because by the time he arrives, there will be walls, there will be Castle Age for RecoN. And again, PuppyPaw does not have a scout. He doesn't see those walls coming up. I feel like him not knowing that is crucial right now.
He's wasting so much time just getting rid of the production. He can't afford a backstab. Meanwhile, talking about backstabs, look at this. RecoN peeled a group off. Went after the villagers. PuppyPaw losing so many to try and get out of here.
I wonder if he was hiding this group in the corner or something like that. I think he was waiting for PuppyPaw to leave, and then he's diving in. That is brutal damage. 14 villagers down for Puppy.
Are you kidding me? Our tricky trader, Trash Panda, now has the tech up coming through. He has the wall up to delay this assault, and there's still a flank force in the back of PuppyPaw's base he needs to worry about.
Oh my lord. And I think now is the time that PuppyPaw is going to realize that RecoN's trade might be bigger than he expected. But RecoN is up to Castle Age. He's got almost double the army, and we are looking at archers that could get composite bows.
Spice Road's on the way, and we mentioned the Golems as well. Mustafadi at least being prepped for that detail, but the massive archers is a bigger problem here. Javelins will struggle with that composite bow.
Exactly. Bootcamp, composite bow. And you have a lot of horsemen as well. When you look at PuppyPaw, he's got 17 Donzos out there, but I'm not sure if all of them are on the front line. And these guys just keep running circles around the enemy. PuppyPaw is down by 25 eco.
Without a scout, by the way. I'm pretty sure he does not have a scout with that mass. It's just 3 horsemen. So, like, yeah.
He doesn't have a scout on the map, KP.
Oh, RecoN, he has 2 scouts. Somewhere.
I don't know what he's doing. RecoN does have scouts.
But that's my point, right?
Like, to catch these guys.
He's avoiding all this info. This should be given over easily in PuppyPaw's own base without a scout. Looks like the army's just going to run out the other side. Meanwhile, this army prepping to dive in. The problem is the upgrades are coming in soon. That's going to give some reluctancy. PuppyPaw starting to back off, and that now offers up an opportunity for RecoN to re-wall.
Yeah, exactly. This army is going to get cleaned up, but RecoN is more than happy about it. He's got a pretty sizable eco lead, one that scales well with time as well. And we're getting close to the Abbasids unlocking their true power through all those unique upgrades from the House of Learning.
And keep in mind, you're now scaling Mass Sofa up against the Bastard Spears. Like, Spears are great against Musafadi as well, by the way, especially these Spears with the Phalanx, right? So there's a very big risk that RecoN is just going to do a food wood heavy comp, which, by the way, is hilarious considering that he hasn't touched the primary wood line this entire game.
Oh, he also towered the middle. And remember that PuppyPaw relocated his lumberjacks when the first raid came in, and that tower is actually nearby, so right now it's not going to be a factor, but you see, he actually towered this close to the primary wood line of PuppyPaw.
So, House of Wisdom still... He did get boot camp, right? I don't think he's got the comp bows yet, which is surprising with 37. What? Okay, I'm starting to wonder if he forgot. Like, this is classic RecoN. He clicks on it to get Spice Roads and then just ignores everything else. The only player who plays Abassus who would do this.
Look at this emo. Wait, is there a hole at the edge of the map?
Oh, there must be. Oh, no. Please tell me there's a gate. Please tell me there's a gate.
Okay, there is.
Trade's been revealed, though. So PuppyPaw now knows.
And there's going to be a second layer of walls as well here for RecoN. He could actually stonewall now. Something that he was reluctant to do in game number 1. And by the time he started stonewalling, it was too late. And oh, this is a bad fight for him. He is kind of peeling off some of his troops, running into the main force of Puppy. And to Puppy's credit, he caught up with the army count. He was outnumbered 2-1 like 3 or 4 minutes ago. Now it's dead even. He's coming in with a lot of sofas, giving him massive mobility advantage over here.
Sofas breaking through on the east side now. So a double assault coming in from PuppyPaw. With the Gulims here, though, like he sent the Musafadi the wrong way, right? Like he sent them on the eastern flank. Looks like Sofas are going to try to leak into the main economy. There's going to be lost in this initial fight and a pushback on the west side.
Yeah, Sofas will dive in, but they're being pursued by horsemen, so they should be dealt with here. Revol is coming in. I don't know if this is enough for PuppyPaw, but he does have still a lot of units to work with, specifically 26 Sofas. And once they get imported armored, those guys are super tanky. I feel like RecoN might be overstaying his welcome here. He's pursuing this pursuing this army, and those javelins are leveraging that range advantage to pick off some of these archers.
PuppyPaw is starting to peel off a few units here or there into the different points in the economy like this, right? So this is where you start to hemorrhage heavily. And the issues on the other side is RecoN's not returning fire, right? He's trying to move in. But when you're mostly left with archers at the tail end of a fight, you don't really have a way of breaking through walls effectively.
Yeah, the problem is that most of the horsemen are gone. He's down to 6 horsemen, and sure enough, Gulam are fine dealing with javelin throwers, but when you also have a front line of sofas, it's difficult to get to those javelin throwers. So most of your archers, they just get picked off instantly by the javs, and at the same time, PuppyPaw is getting up to 30 of these sofas, and that allows him to stretch out the playing field. He can flank from 2 sides, and RecoN is struggling to keep track of all those raiding parties.
Yeah, this is the thing that makes people feel like Marlians are a bit overtuned still, right? Like, the infinite flood point, it just never stops. Like, Marlians are the purest form of Zerg in AOE IV, right? Secondary would be Japanese. And you see why. They're so damn efficient at blobbing. Like, Musafadi have come full circle. You remember when game first came out, with the expansion, Musafadi were king. Then they fell off the side of a cliff, but recently they've been coming back in a fierce way. It's either Sofa plus Musafadi or Musafadi plus Scouts, but either way, it feels almost impossible to stop them.
Yeah, Camel Riders being mixed in now by RecoN to try and debuff those sofas, but I mean, ReCon's problems are now increasing very rapidly. When you look at the army count, it's 84 to 57. There used to be an 80 to 20 lead at some point by RecoN.
Timeout. Get me into the third series of the day. He's trying to build Camel Riders. He has no farms. This is... I mean, it's a good idea if you're playing a TC build and not a trade build. But where the hell are you ever getting the food for mass Camel Riders?
The pivot into sofas is massive here for PuppyPaw, by the way. And to his credit, he knew about the archers for a long time. And he just said, okay, you have so many archers, I'm just going to go heavy into sofas. Sure enough, you have spears, but you don't have the mobility to catch them.
It's impossible for him to keep up. I mean, RecoN, this is the thing, like, he usually says he thrives in these environments where he has to defend until it's his moment. I'm just wondering, like, how many minutes does it take for your moment to come through here? Because I'm just seeing the numbers, and they're trending one way. Bigger for Malians, smaller for Bassets.
The problem is that the fights are now taking place in his base, and he's about to lose access to this neutral market as well. He's got 2 towers defending it, but Sofas keep trickling in, and they just start picking off those traders. You look at the worker kills, now it's up to 21. This is 22 to 14. It used to be 0 to 14. And those traders are now gone. No farms working as well for RecoN. He's trying to get some mangonels going, but the army count is just disappearing for RecoN. He's down to 37 army, population looking more and more grim, and it looks like we're getting close to a 3-0 here, KP.
Yeah, if you think it's hard for RecoN, you want to know how hard it is for him to keep track of this. Look how much Vodka's struggling right now. He's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. He's just opened up another can of Red Bull. He's cranked it down. He necked it in one go. He's like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. All of a sudden, PuppyPaw has 3 more raid groups going at the same bloody time. Like, this is out of control. There's no way of blocking the floodgate now, right? RecoN would need to get some stonewalls up. I just don't see how you ever get the breathing room for that.
Yeah, villager count is now dead even, and that's always a bad thing when you're facing with the Malians. 3 relics as well on the side of PuppyPaw.
Oh,
and the population
God.
is just collapsing for RecoN as he taps out.
When I see that many traders dead on the screen, IGG, says RecoN. I mean, an admirable effort. It almost looked like it was coming together, but I think a few techs missing, maybe a stonewall would have went a long way as well, because the moment that second front opened up, it all fell apart. And the crazy part is RecoN anticipated that early on. That's what that wall was all about. Yet he never invested in something stronger. He was never able to lock down the Malians, and we once again see why this Civ is so powerful on maps that you can open up. It's the mobility and the flood point in Castle Age that makes them so supreme.
Yeah, that was the prime spot for the Malians to fight in. That's their power spike, the big power spike that they were looking for. And RecoN had a sizable army, but his eco got breached very quickly. And this is the problem with the trade. If your eco gets breached, it's very easy to shut it down. It's not like farming where you have it at the back of your base and it might be safe. It's not like the Malian passive income with the cows and the pit mines. If you do have any of your walls breached, your trade is going to be exposed, and that's exactly what happened. PuppyPaw with a decisive win over RecoN, 3-0. Doesn't do a lot of justice to RecoN, though, who really put up a good fight, and he had some really good moments in this series, I feel.
Yeah, game 1 especially was incredible. Like, I think he was so close at a few different points there, right? Like a very back and forth game. I wonder if that one did burn out a little bit as we went deep in the series. Game 2 just didn't really look like it had a plan coming together. I think that's partially due to, more so to the credit of what PuppyPaw done in that opening phase. But game 3, like, cool idea. Unfortunately, just, I think one of the big problems is even if he didn't see the trade, which he couldn't, he didn't have any scouts, he's playing against RecoN. RecoN kind of likes to do that trade, Lytical, a little bit too much. This is why it's important to mask yourself, to pretend you're someone else.